Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rose's third episode of the teen-led podcast, TNT, spelled TEA. I'm your host, Daisy Friedman, and today I will be interviewing Noemi Gilbert. Noemi uses she, they pronouns and is an actor in the Rose's upcoming production of #Enough, Plays to End Gun Violence. So, let's get started. Hey, Noemi.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great.
Awesome. I am super excited for you to be on the third episode of TNT, spelled TEA. And today we're going to kind of dive into the Rose's new project, #Enough, which I know you're a part of. So could you just give us a little bit of a background first on what this awesome production is?
Yeah, so #Enough is a nationwide project of staged readings for plays about gun violence in all its forms. So the Rose is part of this nationwide project. So we have 4 or 5 scripts. I can't remember which one, and we will be doing staged readings of them over Zoom.
That's awesome. And the scripts are all written by kids, right?
Yeah, teens from across the country whose scripts were selected in a competition process.
That's awesome. So can you talk about your role in these scripts?
Yeah, so I am in 3 of the scripts. One is a script called Malcolm, which has to do with the events and the people surrounding a man who was shot by police. And in that role, I am the driver who drove Malcolm from to the city and was the one who actually witnessed him being shot by police. The second role that I have is Fate Number 2 in a play called Miss Martin's Malaise, which is a play about a teacher who is very worried about school shootings. And I am one of the voices in her head who is always worrying about what are they going to do in the event of a school shooting. The third role that I play is probably one of the most meaningful roles I think I've ever played, and it is a 7-year-old girl who has an imaginary dragon friend, and she is killed in an elementary school shooting. And she just kind of has to balance, the imaginary world that she made up with her dragon friend and also the terrible reality that, she dies at school.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. I'm super excited to see this show, and I kind of just want to get your thoughts of this is a really powerful thing to be doing over Zoom. How do you think what's going to be the good about it and what might be not necessarily the best about it?
Yeah. One thing that I think is really good about doing virtual performances about such a heavy and intense topic is the opportunity that it feels much more personal, because you have everybody else and we're all in our houses and using items and objects around us. And I feel like that provides a sense of connection that you don't always get when you're, in a theater space creating art together. And I think that level of personal connection always helps when you're trying to create a cohesive and meaningful show, I guess, and treating it with the amount of respect it deserves. I think it's so important for actors to be connected with each other. A negative that I think, sorry for interrupting, but I think a negative is that it doesn't always feel like actual theater, I know it is creating, but it is always a struggle just to get in the right headspace to do this. So that is a challenge for, I feel like, any online productions, but specifically for such an intense production.
Yeah, and can you just talk a bit about the rehearsal process, what it's been like and what it's going to be like going forward?
Yeah, so for our quote unquote auditions, we had everybody read some sections from the script and talk about, reading sections from the script And it's also a very open thing to be if you have like a personal connection to the topic, talking about like what you do feel comfortable performing and what you don't feel comfortable performing with. That's also been a really important part of the process. So we've been doing, I believe we've had 2 rehearsals where we've been reading everything all the way through and thinking about how we can use the props and setting and costumes in our own homes to contribute toward a cohesive performance.
Yeah, and what sorts of things are you thinking about when doing that, when trying to make that cohesive performance for everyone?
Yeah, I think a lot about what can be the same for characters who are interacting, but are obviously in different environments. When the play Guns in Dragonland, where I'm the 7-year-old girl, a big part of the story is that in her imaginary world, you get a pair of special dragon wings if you perform a valiant act. So one thing that we are going to do is going to have Grace, who's playing the dragon, and I to both have these dragon wings that will look similar for both of us. So it can really be like, so something that the dragon gives to Lila, the little girl. And it can be like something that is traveling, really through space, which is really cool.
That is really cool, without even leaving your house.
Mm-hmm.
What made you kind of want to do this production? Yeah.
Yeah, so gun violence is a pretty personal topic for me, but I also feel like, during the pandemic, it's really difficult to be talking about like, there's not protests and you cannot physically lobby at capitals or places like that. So it can feel kind of stuck, especially for, like obviously if school is not in person, there are not school shootings. And if people aren't gathered in mass, there aren't as many mass shootings. So it can feel kind of like we're at a standstill to have meaningful conversations and discussions about action about gun violence. And I think that I'm a strong believer that art is a very powerful tool for social change. And this is a way to, continue that conversation and make sure that we're not forgetting about the issue of gun violence.
Yeah, I think that's really amazing. And I think you bring up an interesting point that because it's not in the forefront of people's minds, we don't want that to go by the wayside. And
right.
I think the Rose is such a perfect place to continue that conversation again.
Right, and like it's still happening. There was a shooting at I think it was a Sonic in Bellevue like a week ago.
Yeah.
And it's like we're very aware that it's still happening, but it can feel like what do we do about it? And the answer is a lot of times you create art and do performances and things like that.
Yeah. And so this seems rather obvious, but why should people come see it?
Yeah, I think that people should come see it because all of the actors are amazingly talented, and I've had such a wonderful time learning from them and creating with them. And everybody is just like amazing performers and able to do amazing creative things. And also, I just feel like it's so important to talk about and continue to talk about. And this provides a space where you can do that and maybe learn about some different facets of gun violence. One play called Hullabaloo talks about like the history surrounding, the glorification of guns in America. So I think that was also an excellent thing to learn about.
Yeah, for sure. And that's definitely not like quote unquote mainstream or something that we really get to hear in the narrative as much. So that's really interesting. So when is this happening and how can people come and watch you?
Yeah, so I apologize because I'm not entirely sure of the date.
That's okay. So. We can fill it in. We'll fill it in.
Okay. Yeah, and it will be happening over Zoom. It will be streamed on the Roses YouTube page and be left there for eternity. So even if you aren't free to see it live, you can always see these shows afterwards.
That's awesome. And I'm just going to jump in and say I'm pretty sure it's December 14th.
That's what I thought. That is what I thought. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank
Yeah,
you.
of course.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast
Of
and
course, it was a
chatting with me
pleasure.
today. And yay! And I'm super excited for everyone to be able to see this project.
So am I.
All right. Bye.
Bye.